John and I just came back from the Cambria County Courthouse where we put in a motion to stop the commissioners from taking out an $8.5 million loan. And also in that loan request, they put in there where next year they're going to have to increase the millage rate to pay off the debt service. Under the county's original filing, they did not list any of their debts. It was very vague. They weren't specific, I believe, because of our filing, that they, at the court hearing, they had to come up with specific issues. So this is the Exhibit 1. They had, I believe, 8 exhibits. But Exhibit 1 was a summary. So the first one was a sale of a property they have not sold yet. So they are saying that that's an unfunded debt based on a sale of a property that has not sold yet. There's an interest from a loss of interest from bank transition. So they're transitioning to a new bank, and they're saying that's a loss of funding. They're saying there was a tax collection shortfall of $500,000, but I believe they also said that the collection on the taxes was 92%. So typically you don't collect, I think 92% is a high amount to collect. You usually budget for collecting lower so that you're not shortfalling, but apparently they didn't do that. They projected they were going to collect almost 100% of their taxes, I guess, which is a mistake that they made. There's fees. They instituted a fee change for the courts. And even though they have many people there with degrees and they're supposed to know what they're doing, they were unable to institute those fees legally until a following year. So they budgeted with the fee increase, but they weren't able to increase the fees, and they didn't address the budget. So they had a shortfall of $685,000. That is a mistake on their part, not knowing how to do their job. There is a $1 million prevailing wage issue. Apparently the system that they put in for 911, there's a subcontractor, and there's still an outstanding reimbursement of $1 million. There's $1 million or $887,000 deficit with the prisons because they're at 50% capacity. It's a reduced number of inmates by the Marshal Service, and they're working to try and get more. So they said. So that brings us to $4.2 million. The remaining $4 million at the bottom is the budget shortfall from the state. So it is not a debt. It is that they have. It's something that hasn't come in from the state budget because they haven't settled on that budget yet. So I don't believe that should even be included on that. That is not a debt. So the county filed a petition in court, and it's under this law. And it says, whenever the governing body of a local government unit shall be of the opinion that it has outstanding unfunded debt, it may, by petition to the Court of Common Pleas, which is where we were at, setting forth the facts, request approval for the issuance of bonds or notes to fund the unfunded debt. After hearing on such notice to the local government unit and its taxpayers as the court may prescribe, the court shall make an order granting authority to fund all or part of such unfunded debt if the court shall find, and then it goes into points. So the first criteria that it has to meet is that the unfunded debt is a lawful obligation of the local government. Going back to Exhibit 1, are these items listed by the county unfunded debts? Is $4 million for the budget an unfunded debt? Or is it a lack of revenue? Are the lack of fee collection, is that an unfunded debt or a lack of revenue? So again, the question is waiting on the Commonwealth budget, is that a debt? You're waiting on being paid. It's not a debt. It's just you haven't been paid yet. Are the percentage on the interest rate from a bank, you have to pay that back, or is that a shortfall? That's a revenue shortfall. That is not a debt. There's an interest, your transition delays on the lost interest. So that's a revenue that they're losing. That is not a debt that needs paid. So there's several $1 million. There's $4 from the Commonwealth budget. There's another $750,000 for interest loss that they do not need and should not be approved because they are not debts. They are revenues that haven't come in. There's no debt to be paid back to the bank for interest. Right. So there's another part of that. After it is recognized as a lawful obligation as an unfunded debt. Part 2 is that there has been an unforeseeable decline in revenues, or that taxes levied have not produced the revenues anticipated, or that it was not reasonable to foresee such obligations. Part 1 of 2, a foreseeable decline or unforeseeable decline in revenues. Unforeseeable decline would be a major event, a flood, COVID, not just screwing up your budget. Screwing up your budget is on you, not on the taxpayer. You need to trim your budget and get it in line so you don't screw it up again. Taxes levied have not produced the revenues anticipated. The anticipated revenues were fine, they screwed up the budget. They overestimated the taxing, and they applied fees before the fees were able to legally be applied. Is it reasonable to foresee such an obligation? There is nothing in the budget that came up. There was no major catastrophe. There was no roof collapse of a building that they had to pay for that they would be unforeseeable obligation. So all these things were pretty foreseeable that they could have anticipated. Criteria 3 for the court decision: that paying such debt by curtailing municipal services will be dangerous to the public health, safety, or education. So what does that mean? That they can't make cuts because if they made cuts, it would be dangerous to the public health, safety, or education. So they're saying they can't make the cuts because it would be dangerous. But again, during the court hearing, they said that they'd be making the cuts next year. So what is it? If they're dangerous to be made, then you can't make them next year. But if they're not dangerous that you can make them next year, then you can cut them this year and tighten your belt and fix your budget and not raise the taxes and take out millions of dollars in loans. It can't be both. And the final criteria is that it is not feasible or not in the public interest to levy additional taxes in the current fiscal year. John made some good arguments during the court hearing, letting them know that there was millions of dollars that they're paying to different boards and authorities like Camtran. They give them $1 million. They could find the money elsewhere. They could tighten the budget this year, not have to raise taxes next year, and not have to take out an $8.5 million loan. That's what they could do. But they're not going to do that, and that's why they're going to the court and asking for this permission to take out a loan for more money because they budgeted irresponsibly. You can talk what you want about politics, people going out, taking pictures, throwing out campaign slogans, but John and I are actually fighting for the people, spending our own money and our own time to try and do what we think is right. Now, will we succeed or will we fail? We don't know. Hopefully we'll get some of that loan reduced, and maybe the judge will only give them a little bit of what they're asking for. It would be nice if they just shut it down completely, but anything would be a win. That way they don't have to increase the millage rate on the citizens of the county for next year to pay off their screw-up. And let's be honest, this is theirs. They own it. This wasn't some freak event. Like I said, it wasn't a flood. There wasn't a roof collapse. They screwed up their budget. They knew this was happening. A slow-mo catastrophe. And here we are. They're going to raise rates to the point where they have to go out and get a loan because they screwed the budget up that bad. Whether that is due to incompetence or malice or just spendthrift and spending and giving everybody what they want for votes, I don't know. I don't know how they ended up where they're at. But sitting through them going after exhibit after exhibit of how poorly they budgeted everything, they could have just said, hey, here you go. You guys want this? Sure, vote for me, and we'll give you everything we want. And then now they're going to raise the taxes. I don't know if that'll work good or play good for the voters. I obviously don't have a good feel for that, because that doesn't seem to be my forte. But some logic and common sense is. And logic and common sense is that they screwed up the budget this bad in just a couple years. And here we are. We warned that this would happen if they didn't tighten their belt and watch what they were doing. And, well, we're loaning money and we're raising taxes. Fiscal conservatives, right? That's what we voted for. Well, that's what some people voted. The majority of people voted for. I didn't vote for that. But here we are, the fiscal conservatives, taking out a loan because they misspent the budget. They overpaid, they overcalculated, and now they have a mess. And instead of them eating it, the taxpayers are. Again, this is county government, and John and I are running for mayor and city council for Johnstown, so it's quite the same. But here we are, working for the people. If you like what you see and you want to see more of it, remember to vote for John D. Bartola for mayor and Joe Taranto for city council. And stay tuned for more. Thank you.